Hey, what's going on, guys? So recently I did a video talking about the fastest knife in the world, or at least my opinion on the fastest knife in the world. And I got some good response back, and I want to do a kind of follow-up video. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the feedback and the comments and stuff. There are a couple other mentions that people feel are extremely fast, if not the fastest, or possibly even faster than the Axis lock. And a couple runners up was the PM2 or compression lock Spydercos in general. As I replied to a lot of people, it would go across the board. Anything with a compression lock would be very fast and it could be used in a very similar manner. With the Axis lock, I mentioned that if you depress the lock, I mean, it's kind of free-floating blade, so you can just swing it out, swing it shut, you know. With the compression lock, I don't have one here for demonstration, but you could do the same. You can depress the lock and swing it open and closed. I still feel like the Axis lock is faster only because there is a smaller range of movement. All right, using the hole, if you're flicking it with your thumb, it'd be the same as the thumb stud. But in this particular design, once you flick it open, your thumb is already right there to come back to hit that Axis lock, all right, to close it. With a compression lock, if you use your thumb, now you have to change the position of your hand to depress the lock to close it. Obviously if you train with it, I'm sure it could be almost as fast or just as fast. But this is the reason why I said specifically, the Axis lock, because I did consider compression locks as well. And then the other one that people mentioned, which was also a really good observation, is button locks. I don't have one here, but basically automatic knives without springs. That's what a button lock is, all right? So if you ever had a knife that you push the button and shoots open, that's because of a spring. If you take the spring out, it's just a button lock. And same deal where you can depress that lock and swing it open and closed. And there are other knife designs in general that you can depress the lock and swing the knife open and closed. But anyway, most of the consideration for this particular design is how much you're actually moving, okay? So with doing this without actually touching anything, you're flicking it open and pulling down and lock. Flicking open, I mean, look at my thumb. This is the movement to open and close this knife, and it's manual. That's why I picked this particular design. But most of this video is not about that. I'm just kind of responding openly instead of continuously typing responses. This is more about the comments I got on this 940 being, smooth. And people are saying like, I don't know, maybe something's wrong with mine. Mine doesn't just freely swing like this. If I depress this lock, you could see it just freely swings. And some people said, well, it must have some kind of blade play. This has zero blade play. All right, locks up absolutely perfect, but again, depressing the lock, it just freely swings. There's like no friction there. Now that being said, I want to give you some examples and talk about it a little bit. All right, so that's the 940. I have a 943 that does the exact same thing. It just freely, swings. It's a very smooth knife, but there's no blade play. Now this knife here also has an Axis lock. This is basically a copy of it. And this one still does the same thing. It just freely swings. However, here is a genuine Benchmade 707. This is the sequel. This is my wife's knife. This also has an Axis lock, and it does not. So this is what people are saying. We're like, hey, mine doesn't do that. You can kind of use some wrist action to flick this open and shut, but you can see this does not freely swing. Okay, it's a stiffer action. Now, there's nothing wrong with this knife, and there's nothing wrong with your knife if yours doesn't freely swing either. But there are some common things you could do that might fix that. For example, if yours does not swing freely like this, it might be dirty. Very simple fix. Take the knife apart with the proper, Torx driver, and make sure you clean out. When you carry these day in and day out, they, pivot area and the parts fill with dirt and dust, mostly pocket lint, things like that. That could be one reason why it is not as smooth. Another reason might just be the tension on the pivot. All right, again, using your tool, you can loosen the pivot just a little bit so that there's less friction. However, I highly suggest that if you're going to loosen the pivot to have a, looser action, make sure it does not create any blade play. All right, with this particular knife here, no matter what I do, I cannot get it to swing freely like these two models here. And I don't know why. I've taken it apart. It is super, super clean. It is perfectly lubricated with the proper oil and everything. I even, when I took this apart, polished the parts around the pivot so there'd be less friction. It's just one of those things. I don't know why it does not want to freely swing. I can get it to by loosening the pivot, but when I do, it creates play, and it's not acceptable to have any kind of blade play. So yeah, it's just one of those things, because when I was showing my wife this, like, not this particular knife, I think it was maybe the 943, like maybe a year ago or something, she took out hers and did the same thing you guys did. You know, flicked it open and tried to let it, you know, fall shut, and she's like, hey, why doesn't mine do that? I said, I don't know, maybe it's dirty. Took it apart and did everything I just said, and no matter what, I still can't get it to do that. So if your knife doesn't do that, I don't know what to say. I'm just suggesting a couple things that might help it. Make sure it's clean, make sure it's properly lubricated, and you can go that extra step by actually polishing some parts. So in the end, all I can really do is suggest that your knife is nice and clean, that you're properly lubricated in the pivot area, and that you adjust that pivot screw, you know, to loosen it just a little bit, but also make sure there's no blade play there. But like I said, it's not going to be a solution for every single knife and every single person. In this particular case, the sequel, just, I can't get it to do that. You know, it has to, you need that wrist action to get that to swing shut. So, I don't know, maybe it's hit and miss, maybe not. Couldn't really tell you. I do believe that, because I had a sequel before as well myself, and from memory, I'm pretty sure it was able to swing open and close. So I don't think it's just certain models. Don't really know. Maybe it has something to do with the manufacturing. Couldn't really tell you. But I am asking you guys to post in the comments if you have a Benchmade Axis lock. Let me know which one you have, what the model is, and if it can freely swing open and shut like that. Just curious. But anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Always appreciate the support, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.